Well, I'd like to welcome right now Representative-elect Katie Porter, 45th District, Congressional District. I'd like to congratulate you and welcome you. And if I'm not mistaken, January 3rd, is that
Correct,
the date? Okay.
Correct. So I'll be sworn in on January 3rd in
Okay.
Washington, D.C. at the official swearing in. And it's a really special day for me. January 3rd is my birthday. It turns out to be, this is a great coincidence or karma or fate, it's my 45th birthday, and I will be sworn in to represent the 45th District. So I'm incredibly excited. We're going to have a birthday party there for anyone who can make it out, and then we'll have a swearing in here in the district as well, so people can attend that later in January when I'm back in the district.
Very good. All right, will you have cake? I'll come and
absolutely going to have cake.
All right, very good. But you've been back to DC already, am I right? Is there an orientation that you do?
Yes.
So tell us about that. How does that work?
There's something called freshman orientation, and it is a little bit like college orientation. You get a badge and you walk in groups to different sessions on what to do. And so we met with groups like the Sergeant at Arms about security procedures, the Capitol Police, who also are involved in security, the Clerk of the House to learn about voting procedure. We met with talked about the rules. So the Democratic caucus gathered, the Republican caucus gathered.
Just the basic rules.
Yeah, the rules of the House, and also the rules of the House floor.
Okay.
So when each party, when they're in the majority, gets to create kind of the operating rules for bringing a bill forward. So one of the things that we talked about that we're going to be changing is making sure there are actually 72 hours that elapse between when a bill is introduced and when it can be voted on. So barring exigent circumstances or a national disaster or something like that, we could make sure that everybody has 3 days, 3 real days, 72 real hours to read the bill, to ask questions, to educate ourselves. And so we think that's an important good government initiative.
See, I never knew that. I always thought that the rules were just the rules. They were set forward eons ago, and kind of like Robert's rules or whatever it might be, and although of course they follow that somewhat. But yeah, I didn't realize that.
No, I didn't either, and so setting those rules is one of the first important things that the group does. And then we also elected some new leadership. For instance, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee will have a new leader, Sherry Bustos from Illinois. And so it was also a time to get to know each other on both sides of the aisle. One of the people I really enjoyed meeting was Republican Carol Miller from West Virginia. So I got to say hi to her and get to know her and her staff a little bit. And then of course the big drama is the room lottery.
Room lottery.
So we all get an office.
Okay. Oh, I see what you mean.
And there are 3 rooms, Cannon, Longworth, and Rayburn. And just kind of like picking your room in college, they have a velvet-lined box, and you reach your hand into the box one by one in alphabetical order, and you pull out a number. And this year there were 83 people drawing, and I drew number 5.
Oh,
so
wow.
That was incredibly exciting.
Now, these rooms are actually surround the Capitol, am I right? They're not within the,
Correct. So there are 3 buildings. If you were to walk out, if you're facing the Capitol, the left side's the House, the right side's the Senate. Right there off to the left side are 3 office buildings, and I'm in the middle building. It's called Longworth. And
sounds like a college, doesn't it?
It does. It really is a lot like picking a college room. And you're thinking about your next door neighbors and your roommates and the bathrooms and all the same things you'd think about. But one of the things that was important to me was to have an office that was on a relatively low floor. It's just a lot easier for people who are visiting you to find your office if it's not tucked in a nook and cranny.
That's true.
So I had a high number. I picked an office. They're decorating it and getting it ready and moving furniture in. And then our next step is to find an office here in the 45th District for constituents to visit.
All right. Now, I got to ask, being that all the freshmen that are in there, regardless what party they're in, are your offices smaller? I mean, do you start out and as you kind of stay with Congress a little longer, it grows.
Absolutely. So even though I told someone, I did draw number 5, but you have to remember that 350 people had already chosen their office. So it's first among last. But I'm really pleased with my office. It's going to work great. It has a room that we can put 6 people in to work together on legislative initiatives, and it has a nice reception area.
Neat.
So I'm really excited about it.
So you're going to pick an office here, and I know you're looking at a couple locations right in this area, am I right?
Yes, so I went out yesterday and toured a couple office buildings. We're looking primarily in an area kind of right smack in the middle of the district. So the district's quite large north to south. Stretches all the way from Villa Park and Anaheim Hills.
Yeah, it's sort of a strange shaped district, that's for sure.
All the way out to Costa de Casa and Rancho Santa Margarita. So we're looking at things that are convenient to transportation. So I'm looking at a couple options that are south of the Spectrum and right there off the 5. So those are kind of, I think that'll be the most central location I can find.
Now, am I correct? Do you have 2 kids?
I have 3 children.
Okay. And what ages or what?
So my oldest is 12, my middle is 10, and my daughter turned 7 while I was at freshman orientation, and she really punished me for being gone on her birthday.
She should have.
We had to have 3 cakes, and we had to have
you got to make it up now.
Extra My Little Pony decorations, and she made sure she got everything and then some.
So how will you balance that? How often are you back? Will you be back in DC? Like weeks at a time, months? Will you fly back every weekend? Because let's face it, I'm sure being a mom comes before anything. That's got to be a little difficult to balance that, right?
It's a juggle for all Congress people, particularly I think those in California, Alaska, Hawaii, Washington.
You live back east, it's like everything's so close there.
Yeah, the farther states, it's more of a challenge. So the House calendar has been released, and one of the things that we asked for as newly elected representatives is we said we really want to have time back in our district right at the beginning and to develop that habit of being engaged with the community and able to take meetings.
I think that's very important.
Roughly it's 2 or 3 weeks in session in DC. I'll fly back on the weekends to see my family, and then a week of what's called district work period. And that's a week for me to be in the office here, to go to meetings, to do tours of small businesses, to come be on TV with you, and to engage with folks here in the district.
And to rack up the frequent flyer miles, right?
Yes, I'm sure I'll be doing that, but it sounds less pleasant.
Now, the other thing I'm curious about, and it's just, I've never really heard, how you do the procedure of living back there. Is there like kind of a dorm at first? Do you move in with other people? Do you have your own home?
We actually were talking that we think a dorm would be a good idea. Right now, everybody has to find their own housing. And so it's expensive. The area near Capitol Hill and the Navy Yard has become, it's been redeveloped, and so it's much more expensive than it used to be. So most people do one of 2 things. They either live in a very small studio apartment, 1 room, which is what I'm gonna do. And the room was occupied by a congressperson who's retiring. Or they get roommates. So they might live in a 3-bedroom townhouse with 2 or 3 or 4 other Congress members. So it's not deluxe, it's definitely not a full-blown home. You're just there to work for the people of your district, and then you get on the plane and come back home.
Well, I know, again, you start January 3rd, and let's face it, things have changed now, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens. This is not unusual. We've seen it. It goes way back where the mid-session usually changes. It's not unusual. I mean, this time it was a pretty good sweep coming in by the Democrats, and I think everybody's going to be waiting to see how this is all going to play out. And let's face it, it's going to be contentious. It already is after starting yesterday.
Yesterday was definitely a lot of sparks at the start, but I do want to tell people we have talked about as a group what we want to introduce as our first bill, and what will be called HR 1, the first bill the House will introduce. And it is a bill that I very much hope will have bipartisan support, and I hope that people, no matter whether they voted for me or voted for someone else, will be behind this bill.
And what's that about? Can you say?
The bill is about making our democracy work, and so it has 3 main areas that it addresses. One of them is campaign finance reform, trying to crack down on the ways that kind of big money and dark money from foreign corporations can be kind of laundered into the campaign finance system. Another area is anti-corruption, so making sure that people are not, for instance, sitting on a for-profit corporate board and regulating that same corporation while they're on a committee. So it's really restoring confidence that government servants are there to serve. And then the third part is to work on some of the voting restoration. So we in California have a great system of voting. We have an excellent registrar of voters. I had to wait more than a week to find out the results of my election.
Yeah.
People always ask me, were you nervous? And I say no, because I know that our registrar of voters was doing an excellent job. And I could count on the result, but that isn't the case everywhere. So trying to strengthen,
we've seen that.
Strengthen voting security, strengthen people's confidence.
No,
exactly. Strengthen people's confidence in the outcomes of elections. So to me, this is a great issue for us to bring forward first. It's one that will benefit the American people broadly, regardless of which party you're part of.
I think that's a good one. I know it's also a difficult one because no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you know, let's face it, there's that, I don't know if you want to call it corruption or collusion or whatever, but let's face it, both sides of the aisle have taken money from different sources in different times. And it'd be great if something like that could really be done.
Well, in the freshman class,
because I think it benefits anyone. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And the freshman class is very big, as you mentioned. We just elected 90-some people. Democrats picked up 40 seats, and many of the people who were elected, like me, never took corporate PAC money during their election, and I still do not take corporate PAC money. So we got there without that corrupting influence, and we are then very much going to push for the kind of reform that we think will allow more folks like us who want to do what's right for businesses and people in this country, not what they're bought and paid to do. That's really the focus that we're bringing to Congress as a new class.
All right, very good. Thank you for coming by today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
luck.
so much. I'll
Happy
see you
birthday.
Soon.
Happy inauguration into your Congress, and happy birthday all at once on January 3rd.
Much.
And save me some cake. All right. We'll see you next time, probably maybe in about 3 months or something. I know you're going to be awfully busy.
Absolutely.
Starting up.
Well, this is going to be very convenient for us.
Yeah.
So we're excited.
All right. Merry Christmas to you, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.